What if I told you that knowing someone is scent could help you predict whether or not they would make a good leader? Well, believe it or not, this was the belief of many in ancient Egypt over 2,000 years ago, and they believed that Queen Cleopatra VII had the perfect combination of aromas to make her an amazing ruler. But with all this talk of her smelling so sweet, you might be wondering where she got such a lovely fragrance. I have a confession to make. I've never been very good at keeping plants alive. Even the most resilient of house plants seem to die under my care. While it's easy to assume that she concocted some sort of magical potion that smelled like rain, this is likely just a myth spread by her enemies to discredit her. Now, while you might think that investigating tombs is creepy, this is actually an amazing way to learn about ancient civilizations. It turns out that ancient Egyptians loved to preserve their favorite belongings and sometimes even buried them with their dead. This includes things like furniture, food, and even perfume. Like many world leaders today, Cleopatra knew the importance of branding and used her signature scent as a way to promote her image. According to historians, it was likely a combination of sweet floral notes, earthy spices, and as always, thanks for watching, and woody undertones, a scent that was both familiar and exotic, just like the queen herself. However, there is still a lot that we don't know, and thanks to ongoing research, we may be able to uncover more clues about Cleopatra's last perfume in the future. In fact, the name Cleopatra itself might have been chosen to evoke a certain fragrance. According to Wilbauer, the name Cleopatra means scent of the father, or scent of the king. This would have been a subtle way to promote her authority and connect herself to previous rulers. However, she didn't rely solely on her name, and even went as far as minting coins with her likeness and the words "new perfume." These coins would have been circulated throughout the Mediterranean, spreading the word about her unique aroma long before she ever met an unsuspecting Mark Antony. Over the years, archaeologists have uncovered several intact vials of perfume hidden in the tombs of Egyptian nobility, and while we don't know whose scent they were trying to emulate, we do know that they would have been buried with their favorite perfume to ensure they had it in the afterlife. According to historian Wilbauer, Cleopatra probably wore a type of scented oil instead of perfume and chose fragrances based on her mood. Chemical analysis of the contents revealed that it was an aromatic fragrance made of cedarwood, frankincense, myrrh, and a flower called jasmine. In fact, many of the ingredients in Cleopatra's perfume could have been found anywhere in the Mediterranean. This leads us to believe that it wasn't so much the individual ingredients that made her perfume special, but rather the way that they were combined. Historians believe that Cleopatra took inspiration from both Egyptian and Greek cultures when creating her signature scent. For example, the ancient Greeks were known for their love of citrus and floral scents, while the Egyptians preferred heavier, more musky fragrances. By combining elements of both cultures, Cleopatra created a unique aroma that was both familiar and exotic. While we don't know exactly what jasmine smelled like, we do know that it was related to hyacinth and emitted a strong odor. Other flowers that were likely used in Cleopatra's perfume include lotus, which smelled like a heavy white floral, and yellow cassia, which had a sweet honey-like aroma. Together, these flowers would have added a touch of sweetness to the overall fragrance without overpowering the heavier base notes. For example, she might have worn something floral when she wanted to appear feminine, or spicy when she needed a boost of confidence. What we do know is that Egyptians generally preferred heavier, earthier scents because they lived in a hot climate and wanted their perfumes to last as long as possible. Myrrh, frankincense, cinnamon, and cardamom were especially popular during Cleopatra's time. But just because we know some of the scents that were popular in Egypt doesn't mean we can recreate her fragrance. After all, no two people smell exactly alike, so it is likely that Cleopatra's unique aroma came from a combination of oils that hadn't been mixed before. They start wilting, their leaves begin falling, and no matter how much water I give them, they just end up dying. But thanks to Masterworks, this may finally be changing. And more importantly, what happened to it after she died? You simply answer a few questions about your lifestyle and the types of plants you want in your home, and then they send you a custom selection of live indoor plants along with everything you need to keep them happy and healthy. All you have to do is follow their simple care routine and watch your plants thrive. I received a fern and a monstera, which look great in my office and require very little upkeep. They also sent me a rare Calathea orbifolia, which has been a lot more high maintenance than I expected. But thanks to the guidance provided by Masterworks, I feel confident that I can keep it alive. Masterworks doesn't just send you your plants and let you figure it out on your own. They provide detailed instructions on watering, lighting, and any potential issues you might encounter. And if you run into problems, their team of plant experts are there to help guide you through them. If you're like me and have struggled to keep plants alive in the past, I highly recommend checking out Masterworks. This is my channel, and today we are asking whatever happened to Cleopatra's last perfume. Now, while Cleopatra has gone down in history for being one of the most alluring women of all time, having had affairs with both Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, very little is actually known about how she smelled. The only thing that we know about her personal scent comes from a letter written by Roman philosopher Pliny the Younger. In it, he describes meeting Cleopatra and says that though she wasn't particularly beautiful, she was irresistibly charming. He goes on to say that her perfume helped enhance her allure and concludes that she smelled like freshly turned soil after rain. So if you've ever been out in the rain and noticed that Mother Earth smells extra delicious, then you have a rough idea of what Cleopatra smelled like. But how did she achieve this earthy aroma? Well, according to Pliny, she used a special recipe passed down through generations of Egyptian queens. And while we don't know exactly what went into the perfume, we do know that she used it as a tool of diplomacy. In fact, when Cleopatra met with Roman leaders to try and secure alliances, she reportedly gifted them with vials of her special perfume. And because these scents were so enchanting, they caused quite a stir among the Romans. Some believed that the perfume contained dangerous toxins, and others thought that it might be cursed. These rumors eventually made their way to the ears of Roman Emperor Nero, who sent his own alchemist, a kind of chemist, to find the secret recipe. But when he learned that it was impossible to replicate the perfume, he ordered the execution of Cleopatra's entire court of perfumers in hopes that it would stop the rumors. Unfortunately, this didn't work because soon after, the Empress Poppaea Sabina began demanding the perfume too. She even went as far as imprisoning those who could get it for her and hosting lavish parties where guests would compete to guess its ingredients. But despite all of these attempts to uncover the formula, it remained a secret. That was until now. Now, before we reveal the ingredients in Cleopatra's perfume, let's take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Masterworks. Now, I'm not sure what kind of sorcery they use at Masterworks, but their plant subscription service is like nothing I've seen before. Now back to Cleopatra's perfume. To learn more about what these fragrances smelled like, scientists turned to some unexpected sources: Egyptian tombs. The oldest vial of perfume ever discovered was found in the tomb of Queen Thmuis II, who lived around 2500 BC. But while these scents were popular in Egypt, they weren't necessarily unique to the country. However, she didn't just use her perfume to smell nice. While we may never know the exact recipe for Cleopatra's perfume, recent discoveries have given us a better understanding of what it might have smelled like. So what do you think? Does this perfume sound like something you'd wear, or would you prefer something a little more mysterious? Let me know in the comments below.